We just finished watching this epic show on Apple called Dark Matter, and it blew my mind and yours in the best way.
I was really into it.
So into it. We went in blind, not really knowing other than the preview what it was going to be about. And we really will try not to give too many spoiler alerts in this episode. We kind of just want to talk about the general theme of it. Because when we were watching it, every episode, we'd be looking at each other kind of with our mouths open, jaws dropped, like, holy shit, like, yes, like, oh my God, I think this is the nature of reality. Like, I truly believe they do an incredible job of out picturing what's going on in our mind.
Yeah.
The creation of our beliefs and feelings.
Yeah, there's two things that really jumped out to me watching it. The first is that I just think it's so cool. As we talk a lot about like consciousness and the collective consciousness. It's like looking at where we are as a society and as a consciousness. The entertainment now is starting to get really cool with the way like things like quantum physics and looking at multiple realities, and we see it a lot. And I think it's something we've talked about before on the show, but it's over the years, like the last 20 years, I think it's got more and more common where you have stuff like, like the Terminator and the Matrix and Avatar and all these these big, huge movies. And now, and like Inception, like there's so many movies that really touch on like things that we had no idea were possible 100 years ago. But it's like this, just the way that like quantum physics and different metaphysics and all these different things are creeping into the collective, I think is so powerful and it's really, really cool. And then the second thing I said to you after we were probably like 2/3 of the way through, and after one of the episodes, I said to you, like, this show is a better documentary for how reality works than The Secret.
Yes.
And I want to be really clear, like I'm not shitting on The Secret at all. I think it's kind of common and cool sometimes to like mock The Secret, and I think The Secret's unbelievable, and it's something that did an amazing job, kind of like I'm saying, is like introducing a lot of these ideas into the collective consciousness and helping to open people's eyes up to what's possible and what's actually going on.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of places where it kind of fell short in really explaining things, and a lot of people have probably been turned off of the idea of the law of attraction because they watched The Secret, got really excited, and then were like, oh, this didn't work. And didn't realize that the entire time they were actually manifesting their reality. They weren't able to do it consciously, because what Dark Matter does a really, really good job of is kind of explaining and showing the power of our subconscious beliefs and fears and thoughts.
Absolutely. And for anybody listening that doesn't know The Secret, it is a movie and book that Rhonda Byrne wrote. And she has done numerous books, actually. I think The Magic was one. I think she had a follow-up from The Secret, like The True Secret. When she wrote the book, The Secret, I think I listened to her on a podcast. It was just her excitement of finding the law of attraction and how your thoughts become things. That's basically the premise of the book. And then she interviews, lots of experts in this field of manifestation and law of attraction and what it means. And it's really honestly her little thoughts, but then her speaking with these experts and their interpretation of the law of attraction and how it works. So it's not even just her. It was almost a collective consciousness in and of itself. And then I think the real secret, or the deeper secret, or even the more profound secret that came out after, was her light bulb moment of realizing, oh, wait a minute, we're all God manifested in form. That's kind of how the law of attraction works, how manifesting works. And she takes it deeper. So I do believe very much, because it was a profound turning point in our journey here, however it was. Like when I read that book, I think I actually read The Magic first, which a girlfriend of mine brought to my attention. Like, have you ever read this? You know,
That's
you've read
the
The Secret.
gratitude one,
It's
right?
the gratitude one. Have you read this book? And I was like, no, what is it? She's like, oh my God, you have to get it. I literally went on Amazon and got it. And that book profoundly changed my life, because each and every chapter of this magic book, which was all about gratitude, was directing gratitude towards different areas of your life: money, relationships, health, like your body, like going through every single body part, saying like, thank you, fingers, like you allow me to touch and feel things and to pick things up. Like, thank you, legs, for the ability to walk. I took every one of these things for granted. I had no idea. I guess I would at that point just call me ungrateful. I didn't realize it. So this book right there expanded my consciousness. I was able to connect to the way that I related to things, whether it be people or material items or myself in this reality. And I'm so grateful for that. So kind of like you said, I've heard also on lots of podcasts, people kind of who are in this wellness, spiritual community, self-development, self-work realm, very much being like, the secret is BS and it's not. And there are gaps in it for sure. And I know that that's what we're going to talk about today, but I always get so, I guess, sad and mad that these people, and it's like, but she brought this concept to the world, not because she's not even American. I think she's right.
I think she's British.
Yes. So it's like I feel like she laid a foundation down. Like if I hadn't been introduced to those concepts, the gratitude, the law of attraction, this thing called manifesting, I wouldn't have even known that all of these subconscious programs were underlying before I could create consciously what I wanted to manifest in my life. You almost, I think I said this to you as soon as you said, wow, this is a perfect kind of reality.
Like an instruction manual.
Yeah. As opposed to The Secret. And I said, I could not agree more, but put me in front of this show, Dark Matter, 5 years ago, when I didn't even know what this, I would have been like, what is this show? That's not real. Like, that's not how reality works. Well, no, I really truly believe holy shit, I think that this is how reality works. And they nailed it. But so I think, like, I'm so grateful for Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, The Magic, The Deepest Secret, all of these books that she brought forth for my evolution and elevation in consciousness, in gratitude, and all of the emotional aspects, in being able to uncover deep traumatic wounds within myself that I didn't know. Because, and I know that we're going to get into it, but like you said, when people begin putting their hands on their, hips, saying, oh, manifestation doesn't work, the law of attraction doesn't work. I don't think it doesn't work. I think it's just that there's something blocking energetically you receiving what you're trying to manifest. And I am the first person to raise my hand saying, I understand that. I've been trying to manifest really big things in my life that have not come. And I know it's not because the law of attraction doesn't work. It's literally a universal law. It can't not work. I understand now that I'm not in alignment with the energy that needs to match the manifestation that I am trying to receive in my life that I desire. Because then I can also tell you the law of attraction absolutely works, because there have been some freaky things that I have manifested out of absolutely nowhere. And it's blown my mind, like, holy oh my God. Like,
It's so cool when that happens. Just like we'll be talking about something and then like turn our heads and see it. Or what was the like you may have like you talked about it, like a chair or a mop.
Yeah,
that was like the crazy. Yeah, tell that story. It's great. It's crazy.
So this was in our very early manifestation days. I had read the Rhonda Byrne books. We were also doing the expanded to be magnetic course from Lacey. And it was all about manifesting. And she instructed us to basically write down a list of 5 things we were trying to manifest, write them down, and basically just let the universe work its magic. That's we'll get into that
Mhm.
too. It's right, 5 desires down, put them on a piece of paper, and it can be as big as I want a $10 million mansion, or I would like this new pair of shoes, whatever it is. So I wrote a couple things down, and one of them was I really needed a new mop for our apartment, and one of those sponge mops where it's like the bottom of the mop is like a huge yellow sponge where you could like wring it, you dunk it in the water, put
Mhm.
soap on it, and our apartment was small. I just needed something to clean. We didn't have a mop other than the Swiffer, which didn't work. I think, wrote it down, closed the notebook, left it. I think a week later, I was on my typical morning walk that I did every day in LA after I worked out. Before I ate breakfast, I would go for a walk, pretty much the same route, other than maybe a different left or right here and there. But I did the typical normal walk, and I'm walking down. I was probably about 4 blocks from our apartment. And I stopped dead in my tracks because in front of a big apartment building, this is pretty common in LA. People would leave things on the side of the street. Oh, free chair, free
Mhm.
desk, free whatever. It seemed like someone had cleaned out their kitchen. And there was a bunch of, really nice dishes and plates on the side of the street that said, free. And next to it, leaning against the lamp pole,
Mm.
was this mop. Literally,
Yeah.
exact
Like brand
color,
new, yeah.
brand new, yellow sponge mop. And I stopped stunned. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know what to do. I was like, this can't be real. Like I didn't know whether or not to take it, to not take it. Like I knew it was free. I kind of continued on the walk. I went like 1 block further, and then I turned around. I was like, no, I have to go back. I have to grab it. Like this is the universe gifting me what I've asked for, what I desire, and trusting, surrendering that it would come. That's a big part of manifestation
Yep.
too. So I grabbed it, brought it in, and I think you walked in, you were like, where'd you get the mop? And I was like, let me tell you
Yeah.
where I got this mop from. The universe gifted it to me free. Literally, I didn't even have to pay one thing for it. I would have also, that is something else. I obviously received this mop free, but manifestation works in an infinite amount of ways because there's an infinite amount of possible ways to receive something that you desire. So this was one of the ways, in a very quick way, that the universe brought it to me. But I could have also just manifested like, hey, I know we have to go to Target or Bed Bath and Beyond over the weekend. I'm really looking for this specific mop, and I am putting out to the universe that I want to find it at this store so that I don't have to go to 10 other stores to look for it. That's also another way. So but this just happened to be on the side of the street, free, exactly what I needed. And that really was just, that's all the validation you need.
Yeah,
something
really
so
does help
small, and
so
it's like,
much.
okay,
Yep.
I can do this. Like that's me co-creating this life in a very small way. I think preparing me to get ready for the really big things that I desire and crave and want to create even more.
There's a few things about that, and there's one that I want to come back to as we get deeper into this. But the other thing I want to say about the mop, or this situation where it's like, of all things, like for that exact mop to be there, it's like, I do believe that like our higher self is showing us that we're on the right track, even though there's maybe other work that needs to be done, and there's things that there's beliefs and like limitations that we're putting on ourselves that need to be cleared out, and there's work to be done. But it's sort of like, maybe it looked like your higher self saw that list and was like, you know what, no, not yet, but here's the mop. Don't quit on yourself. Don't be that person that's like, law of attraction doesn't work, because you just manifested the perfect mop.
Yeah.
So you're on track and you're doing something.
Wait,
and
yeah.
It's breadcrumbs.
Sorry. One other thing that was on the list, I don't know if I've ever told you or we've talked about it, just because I know that you want to say something and I feel like I've rambled for a long time. But one of the other things that was on the list was a trip to Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that.
It was specifically for Paul Selig's. He was hosting like a retreat for like a channeled session that it was going to be like hosted that year. For anybody who doesn't know Paul Selig, we've mentioned him many times as, again, a channel who has helped us understand the beauty of who we truly are. And he was hosting like this retreat. And I was like, okay, I want that to be one of the things. It obviously didn't happen then. Fast forward 4 years later, we did end up going to Costa Rica. And in my heart of hearts, I think this was the universe granting me the trip to Costa Rica that I actually needed. Not that I wanted, not that I don't think that that would have been hugely profoundly amazing for my growth and expansion, but the trip that we took last November to Costa Rica, I mean, it changed my life. So kind of like you're saying, the universe, it's giving me those breadcrumbs. It's giving each one of us breadcrumbs. I've got you. I've got your back. We're in this together. We're going to co-create. This is the synchronicity. Here's your mop. Here's this. I think there was a plant on there that I got too. Like all of these things. The 2 pair of shorts that my mother gifted. I think everything that I put on that list, or at least 95% of it, I've received. And very quickly, or like I said, it took 4 years. It doesn't matter though. It's still unfolding. It's
such an interesting thing where you're like, it's with a lot of the, it's kind of like with the mop, it's a part of it is probably that you didn't really care. You wanted it, but it wasn't that important to you. It wasn't a life or death kind of thing, where you probably put a lot more weight on the trip to Costa Rica, where it's almost like close your notebook, but it was like once you forgot about the mop, there it was. Once you stopped caring, and then it's like 4 years later, once you were worrying about other things and weren't trying to manifest a trip to Costa Rica, it presented itself.
Yes.
And it was like exactly what you needed at that time, not necessarily what you had wanted before, because we don't know what's best for us. We have our assumptions and our beliefs, but very often the things that we want aren't actually what's in our best interest, or they're not the things that we need. And I think that plays a huge role in it too. So I wanted to kind of say earlier about The Secret, where a lot of people either say like, oh, it doesn't work, or on the other hand, people are like, no, that's not good enough, kind of like, and like scoff at it. Like The Secret's good for people who don't know what they're talking about, but this is the truth. But it's like, there's something that's perfect for everybody. So like what that person who's kind of more advanced and saying like The Secret's nonsense, what they need is probably something more advanced, something deeper, something that's, more detailed, maybe
more in alignment.
More in alignment with where they are and the direction of their life. And for other people, it's the perfect seed to be planted. It's the perfect gateway into metaphysics for so many people, millions of people.
Yes.
And it's because of this thing I'm saying before, where it's like, we have the idea, we have the thing that we want isn't always the thing that we need. So the person who doesn't even know that they want to create their own reality, but they need to know about it, could be exposed to The Secret and have their mind blown, be like, okay, I'm going to start thinking about things differently. But somebody who's deep into quantum physics, they don't need The Secret, because they already have this other understanding of how things are working and how everything is interconnected, and we are creating our own reality with our thoughts. So that's sort of in part of maybe why I had said this is better than The Secret, is because like I had watched The Secret 20 years ago when I first watched it for the first time. I think I was in high school the first time I watched it.
And then we rewatched it. And then
we rewatched it like 10 years later, and the second time it was like, it helped more. And it like kind of pushed it's like everything's exactly what we need at the time you need it. But I think that something you see a lot in kind of the way the world is changing, and people are getting away from traditional jobs, and everybody is becoming a coach. And that's another thing people scoff at. I think it's a great thing. And I think it's everybody, there's like it's more of like a service-minded community that we're creating. But it's easy to also look at it and be like, oh, everybody's a life coach, everybody's doing it. And it's like, and some people you look at, maybe some life coach's Instagram page and you don't agree with anything they're saying. It's like, who is this person? They're not an expert. How are they going to help people? But there's people out there that they're perfect for. And it's like a decentralized education in a lot of ways, because we're probably kind of the last generation, I think, to go through school and be taught this is exactly what it is. And we didn't really have the same access to other information and decentralized type of education. We started to, we were like, the internet was so young when we were young. And now kids grow up on the internet. You can watch a YouTube channel or an Instagram page or TikTok of somebody teaching you things that your teacher doesn't know.
I was just gonna say, you literally learn more from the internet than you do school half the time, or at least I've read that and seen that, people saying that about their kids and what they're learning. Yeah, it's truly incredible, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, and it is, and it can be overwhelming that there's so much information coming in every day. And I've seen a bunch, like very often I've seen the statistic where the amount of information that we take in a day is more than people would have in a lifetime, I think as recent as like 50 years ago, or maybe definitely 100 years ago.
That's crazy.
And it's like, it's hard to be discerning, especially with like algorithms that are directing things in a certain way. But I think if you have the ability to be discerning and to find the things that you need, they're everywhere, and everybody can find their own unique path. But people, the point I want to make is like all these people who are becoming like life coaches or even like holistic lifestyle and wellness coach, like I'm in this thing, like I'm teaching things that I didn't learn when I got my personal training certificate or when I went to school. I'm teaching things that I've learned that I've learned on my own. And it's really, really powerful things that have transformed my life. And I know I'm not for everybody, but I am for some people. And I can have a profound impact on the lives of some people. But other people who are on a different path are going to look at the things that I'm teaching and disagree with it. Doesn't matter. It's like, we can just kind of accept that people are on different patterns and different frequencies and different paths, and accept that and allow everybody to learn at their own pace in their own way. We're going to have this diversity of ideas that do kind of come back together and create this beautiful community. And I know it's like there's a little bit of a tangent here, but I think that the point is when something works for somebody and they see profound changes in their life, they get really excited and want to tell everybody else about it. And I think that's what Rhonda Byrne did. She was from a really like dark point in her life, stumbled onto teachings of like Wallace Wattles and
Neville Goddard.
All these like great teachers who had come before her, and kind of blew her mind. And then as things started to change really fast, she couldn't wait to tell everybody about it, but it was through her lens. So it's her perception of the things that she had learned and how they helped her. That doesn't make them wrong in any sense. It's just not the full picture. But that's the point of having different people. Like, so now we have 8 billion people on the planet. That's 8 billion perspectives of the same thing. So there's going to be different paths. And that's why I think it's really important to kind of like embrace a wide variety of perspectives and ideas, and take what works and just disregard the things that don't work and don't serve you. And then eventually when they do, when that will maybe serve you, it's in there. It's in your consciousness. You have access to it. You'll find it, or it'll come back around and you'll find it again. And I think it's really, really helpful.
Love it.
Oh. Shifting gears just a little bit, I want to talk about the subconscious.
Yes.
Because this is the thing that jumped out at me. And this will be maybe the last reference I make to dark matter, because I don't want to ruin anything. And this isn't necessarily a spoiler. I just want to say they do a really, really good job of pointing out how it's not necessarily our conscious desires that we're going to manifest if our conscious desires are not in alignment with our subconscious desires and beliefs and fears and thoughts and concepts. So I think that it's really, really important, and kind of what we've learned, like we've been on this long path now of doing our best to learn as much about this as we can and apply these concepts to our life. And why I was saying earlier, it was easy for you to manifest a mop, but subconsciously, I don't want to speak for you, but probably didn't think it was you were going to be able to manifest like that $10 million mansion.
Oh yeah.
Or just like, or like the bigger things, or even that trip to Costa Rica. Like it took 4 years because there was probably also a part of you that didn't believe that you could just get it and have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's a really important thing to
yes.
Talk about.
I agree. And I do want to say we kind of have to talk about dark matter and give a little bit of what the show's about, because people won't really understand what this podcast is about if we don't. So if you haven't watched Dark Matter and you don't want the spoiler alert, please turn this off for at least the next like 3 to 5 minutes and then come back. And please, like, we're not typically people who recommend shows. We will recommend books and people to follow and things, but please watch this show. Please, it's profound, and I really do truly believe that this is how we create worlds. Like that's the premise of the show. It is literally, we are that powerful. Exactly as Rhonda Byrne said, but with a caveat, and we'll get into that. Thoughts create things. And in this show, it is epically worlds. There's a quarter of infinite doors, and every time you open that door, boom, new world. Specifically here, though, within the show, it is Chicago because that's where it's based. So there's literally an infinite number of worlds similar, if not resembling, Chicago in every single aspect. Snow, fire, avalanches, water, futuristic. It's absolutely incredible. And it goes, that's all I'm going to say about it. But that is also what we talk about so much as being creators of our own reality. This is why it hit us on every level. Just, I feel like I felt it in my bones, like, oh my God. And I also truly believe that this is the universe reflecting back to us. You're onto something. Keep going. Keep working through or working on these desires that you'd like to manifest. And if they're not manifesting, look within to see the deeper subconscious programmings that are possibly dictating or throwing you off of alignment to that energetic signature that you require to see with your eyes what you would like to manifest.
Yeah. It's like it all comes down to knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And the deeper that we can know ourselves and what drives us and what we're afraid of and what programming we have essentially accepted and agreed to throughout our life, the better we are able to consciously create our lives and consciously just be present in every moment. It's that movie came out, got Best Picture like 2 years ago. Everything, everything, everywhere, all at once. But enough time has gone by that I'm not necessarily worried about spoiler alert with this one. But it's a very similar concept.
It is, yes.
That I just wanted to touch on. So it's an example that's not going to ruin the show, but it's where with every choice that we make, we create 2 timelines. And there's the timeline, like the choice that we take and the path that we take. And then there's the alternative of if we had made a different choice, that timeline also exists. And they're all right here. They're all stacked right on top of each other. We just can't see it in the same way that there's colors that we can't see with our eyes, and there's sounds that we can't hear with our ears, but they're all present. So there's all these other realities taking place right here, right now. I just can't see them and perceive them. We can't perceive them. All we can perceive is the reality that we're creating together. It's really, really profound to like almost like think about all the different things that could have happened and are happening that we have a connection to, and that our consciousness is also being informed by the decisions that we didn't make and the experiences that we didn't have, because in some other reality we're having it. And that's how we kind of like complete the picture of all these different perspectives, and we can see things from every different angle.
It's kind of a lot to take in, and it can be overwhelming. I've been overwhelmed by and can still be like, yeah, that's a lot. It's we don't have every single answer either.
For sure.
Like
So far from it.
Again, there's an infinite amount of
Mhm.
possibilities. There's an infinite amount of timelines. There's an infinite amount of Earths and all of these things that we exist on simultaneously. I don't think we're supposed to have it all figured out right this second. Like that's part of the game. That's
Mhm.
part of school here on Earth, is to contemplate these things and to just sit with it and expand the perspective of, that would be interesting if it was real, because we've been taught that it wasn't real and that it wasn't possible, or at least I was taught that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for everybody else. I will make that correction. I wasn't taught that in many different ways. But I think, kind of like you were saying, a seed was planted at some point within this wellness kind of awakening journey, whatever you want to call it, a decade ago. And I just thought to myself, yeah, okay, what if the religion that I had been taught for so long isn't necessarily the entire truth, and that God didn't create all of us, the planet and the universe, in 7 days? And what if we are infinite beings and that I actually don't die? I just transition to a different dimension where I'm going to learn even more and expand my consciousness in that way and contribute to this totality of the creator, of God. I mean, you can use that
Mhm.
word if you'd like to. I was taught a very different way to look at God. Not that it's wrong. I feel like I have knocked Catholicism and Christianity in the past, and I feel very bad about that, because I kind of was in that phase of like rebellion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to rebel against this. No, I think it's beautiful because it got me here. And it's not wrong, because there are so many people that have this as kind of what gets them up and going, and they do have faith and they do pray, and miracles happen for them. Like, who am I to say that that's wrong? No, it's perfect for those people, exactly like you said. It just, I evolved in a different way, because from my perspective at that time, it was very small and it could only be this
Mhm.
way. And I just didn't get it. I just thought that there was more to the world. So I expanded, and I wanted to shift my perspective and elevate it and allow for different opportunities, different knowledge, different teachings, different ideas to come in. And whoa, did the floodgates open, because now I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's almost, it's kind of the excitement of it. Like, I'm technically making it up, to be honest. Like, I'm creating this.
Mhm.
So I get to choose, like you were saying, we get to choose in every moment. Do I want to make this decision or that one? There is no right or wrong. Because if it's wrong, and I'm using that in quotes, and not for you, the universe has got your back. It's just going to redirect you and put you in another situation to choose differently, to create something maybe more beneficial for you or to help you grow. That's the power, again, of choice. We all choose. And we've talked about that multiple times on the podcast as well.
Yeah. I think, like, kind of coming out of Catholicism, such a great example for, like exactly what we were saying before about how people judge The Secret of, not, oh, that's not good, even though maybe they got really excited the first time they watched the movie. But there is sort of that tendency to, as your worldview shifts, to want to judge things, especially the ones that you used to believe, and be upset, and to get everybody to want, like, I figured this thing out. I want everybody to know about it.
Yes.
And I want everybody to change and be just like me. And that's sort of what the point I wanted to make. I think it's more important to have diversity of opinions.
Absolutely.
And I know that you've kind of, we've both gone through that and come out the other side and are way more accepting and not trying to change people's minds, and more just kind of share things that we get excited about and see if that also plants seeds.
Absolutely.
For people to grow.
And we're using religion and that as like a big topic, but it can be as simple as food. The way that I ate 10 years ago is very different than the way that I eat now.
Yeah.
How many different diets, have we tried and not tried? All these things, because it's suitable and really good for some people, but not for others. And I wanted to understand what those things did to my body and how it changed my mentality, my physiology, the way that I view life. And now, because I've done so many different diets, I have so much more compassion for people who are very strict or not, or just eat meat, or just eat paleo or vegan, or not, or none of them. It's like, great. And it's like, okay. But when we are so stuck in what we believe are our values that define us, it gives us very little room to grow. And that is from personal experience.
Yeah. And that is because the world's a mirror, and everything is reflecting back to you who you believe you are, what you believe about the world, what you expect to find, what you're looking for, what you're seeking, subconsciously what you're seeking, not necessarily consciously. That's sort of the point that we want to get into here. So I think that the world is a mirror. Everything that we experience is reflecting back to us who we are, so that we are able to experience it and learn about ourselves. And as we learn about ourselves, we get to decide if we want to stay the same or change and grow and evolve. And with all these, that's like diets is such a cool example. Like everything works sometimes, nothing works every time. Some people are vegan, and being vegan works really, really well for them. They have more vitality and life, and they feel great, and they're healthier than they've ever been. Some people are vegan and they are slowly starving themselves to death, and they're nutrient deficient, and they're weak, and they desperately need animal protein, and they're starving themselves of it. Other people just eat whatever they want and feel amazing. Some people eat whatever they want and feel terrible. Like all these things are true. And it doesn't mean that the vegan person needs to start eating meat or whatever. It's just a reflection of what they believe is going to happen when they eat that food. That's why so many people, like when they do make a change, see immediate results, and like all of a sudden everything's great, and then they get really excited and preachy about it and think everybody needs to be vegan or everybody needs to be carnivore or whatever it is. And I've been there,
done it. Again, we had to learn that way,
but
to understand.
Yeah, but it's not about the diet. It's about your subconscious beliefs about the diet and about yourself and about the world and what you think is best, or what you believe, like deep down what you believe, because what you believe deep down is being projected out in front of you. And this is what's really, really important, because when we go around judging everything as wrong or bad or scary or perfect or amazing or better than us, whatever it is, whatever judgment we're putting on things, it's just a reflection of what we believe about ourselves. So we're creating our reality so that our reality can show us who we are, so that we can know ourselves better. So it's not about making the right choice. It's about making your choices right. And this is, I think, where a lot of people get caught up on the law of attraction, because they believe things have to be a certain way. And they believe like, oh, money's an easy example. I want $1 million because I'm poor. And $1 million would be great. And I'm just going to think about $1 million and how nice it would be to have $1 million. And I'm going to, all day long, I'm going to journal about $1 million, and I'm going to write about it, and I'm going to visualize it. And all I do all day is want $1 million. And all you're doing is reinforcing the belief that you're lacking $1 million and that you're not enough, because in order to be enough, you need to have $1 million, and you don't. So the world that gets reflected back to you can't be $1 million, because that's not anywhere within you. What's inside you is, or inside your aura, is a lack of $1 million. So that's all you're getting back. That's all you're going to see in the world, is what's not there. In the same way that if you believe that the world is scary and unsafe, then everywhere you go, you're going to be faced with things that are scary and threatening. If you see the world as like a beautiful, inviting place, then you're going to be what's going to be reflected back to you is going to be sort of invitations to join the world and to be a part of a community. So it's not necessarily about like the thing, it's about the feeling and the being.
There's an emotional component
For
to
sure.
it that is absolutely necessary to reflect and see in the manifest world what you're thinking about internally. And yeah, what an incredible mechanism that we decided to create, or the creator created, to get to know itself, which the way that it gets to know itself is through the individual perspectives of every single living thing on this planet, not even just humans, animals, plants, like everything is just, it's incredible to think about this. I'm glad that you brought up the money thing, because this was a big one for me when trying to manifest. And I know you too. This is why I thought, and do still believe, that the work from Rhonda Byrne is so profound, because she helped me understand it. I was able to manifest that mop so quickly. I'm telling you right now, I've been trying to manifest $1 million for 5 years, and it's not come. And I'm not upset by any means, because every time that I don't receive that amount of money, it's changed and fluctuated, and that is a true reflection of a deeper understanding of my subconscious beliefs about myself. Kind of what you're saying, that I had such a lack mentality, a scarcity mentality, a low worth mentality, that I wasn't able to receive the energy of money, because I was almost pushing it back. Like, wait a minute, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not even doing anything. Like, I'm not working more. I'm not, like, right. We all have that subconscious program from society. You got to work harder. You got to put in so many hours. You have to do overtime, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can't achieve if you're not working. I'm still unpacking that subconscious belief that is not just me. That's literally society. But just because I haven't manifested, $1 million on my doorstep yet, I have manifested money in ways that I couldn't even think were possible. And it's like, wait a minute, how did that come to me? Like, it just came in gifts from people, from old people. It just, again, there's an infinite amount of ways to receive things that you want. We don't know what's best for us and at what time. And it's funny to think about that we're trying to control something that's uncontrollable. But when what I've learned, when we're able to surrender that control and trust that the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is going to provide it at the time that's necessary and perfect for my evolution, that's all that matters. Because there's also been things kind of like the Costa Rica trip, like I was saying, I didn't get it that exact year that I asked for it, but I think I got it when I needed it. It was even better than what I required. So maybe I'm trying to manifest $1 million right now, but who knows, in 5 years, maybe that's $100 million. Just because I'm saying I want $1 million doesn't mean that I'm not going to receive even more than that at the time that's right energetically for me to receive it, and to truly believe that I am worthy of that. Like, of course, I thought I was worthy of receiving the mop. I feel like that's a really good example.
I think so too.
It's like, oh yeah, of course. And if I don't get it, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But so many people depend on money to fulfill them, to pay bills, to pay. And please don't get me wrong. We've been in situations where it's like, holy fuck, how are we going to pay for rent next month? And it's like, that's not going to attract the energy of money, because you're already in the place of lack. How could you receive more? You're out of alignment with the energy of money, which is receivership.
I was going to say that before. I think, like, with some of these really big big things that we make out to be really important in like life or death. Like when you're struggling to pay your bills and it's like, oh, if I could just manifest this money, so I'm going to visualize it really hard. But at the same time that you're visualizing this thing really hard because it's the savior that's going to come rescue you, you're putting resistance on it and you're kind of throwing things out of alignment. Where, like you said, with the mop, when it's like, oh yeah, I would love a mop, and if I don't get a mop, that's fine, I'll get a mop some other time. That's more in alignment with how you can actually create things, because it was a reflection of what you believed.
Yeah.
Where when these things, you put so much resistance on getting money to solve your problems, and then when you don't get it, you get more and more frustrated, so it reinforces the feelings of lack, and then you find yourself with extra bills instead of the money that you were looking for, and you get into this cycle. And that's sort of the cycle of not knowing our subconscious fears and beliefs.
And this is what dark matter does a really good job of showing.
Exactly.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's really, I was just going to say that statement, but then I was like, another, like you mentioned, like work before, and the idea.
Okay,
yeah, you can go.
Well, just because I want to point out, like I was saying, there's this corridor with infinite amount of doors.
Mhm.
Now, they're specifically trying to get to a world that they're trying to create in their mind, but they're feeling very differently than what they're trying to actually manifest in this world. They've got fears, they've got worries, they've got anxiety and stress, and every time those feelings come up into their conscious mind from the subconscious belief patterns that are there from childhood programming, life itself, they open that door and they're bam hit with their biggest fear. What they don't want is being shown to them, because that's what they're focusing on. That's what they're fearing, and what they're fearing is what they're feeling. The feeling is what's attracting the manifestation out into the world. It's not just like, okay, I want rainbows and butterflies, I want the sky to be pink, and I want everybody to get along. No, if that's not actually what you feel, what you believe, it's not. And that's reflected beautifully in the show. If they open the door and it's like, oh shit, everything's on fire, because like within them, like it's burning, they're petrified.
Yeah, that was very well explained. I was just going to say, an example of that is when, if you're trying to manifest money, but you believe that the only way that you can get money is by working really hard, and then you subconsciously resist the hard work that's going to come with the money, you're going to have yourself in a cycle of not being able to get it, because you can't possibly see a scenario where you are either like gifted money or you receive money that you didn't like really grind for and work for. So if it's like you have this idea, you have like a dream in mind where you have like this beautiful house and this beautiful car and this beautiful life, but the only way you can conceive of that actually happening is if you're working, grinding 80-hour work weeks, and you're constantly working and you don't get to see your family and you don't get to do anything with your friends and you can't enjoy the life, then you're not going to actually manifest it. Or you're going to manifest that where you have this life where you're just grinding away and working 80-hour work weeks. So there's a difference in sort of manifesting that, where it's like kind of what you wanted, but it also sucks, versus like actually just living your life or becoming the version of you that can happily and joyfully receive this money. And it's like becoming that version, not adding money to the version of you that you are now, because along with that comes all the other subconscious stuff and the fears and the negative connotations.
Absolutely. We had this talk the other night when we were walking, because money for both of us has been a very contentious, I would say, point. And I truly believe that's one of the many reasons we're together. That's one of the many reasons why we chose our parents as people to incarnate with and to learn through this kind of lack mentality, just of society in general, not even like our families, just literally how kind of the world revolves or puts money very much on like a pedestal for status, power, freedom. But it's like, again, that's outside of us. What we're seeking really is the internal shift energetically. And I think I had this like very powerful realization, was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, like I haven't manifested $1 million on my doorstep, because if I had received that, then I wouldn't have understood a lot of my subconscious programmings and beliefs and scarcity mentality and lack of self-worth. Like I wouldn't have discovered that. And God only knows what I would have done with $1 million if I wasn't putting in the effort to truly understand who I am. Like, would I have spent all that on clothes and food? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what I wouldn't have, I probably been able to relate to money in the way that I want to truly learn from that, as a person who really truly wants to co-create with the energy of money and receive it and give and understand it. You know, money is energy. Everything in the universe is energy, and everything in the universe has to know itself through relationship. Everything is in relation to one another. So I feel I'm trying to understand the relationship I had subconsciously with money and repair that to actually let money into my life. Because it's like I feel like I was closed off. Like I didn't feel worthy of receiving, not that I didn't receive money, but receiving a lot of it.
Right.
Because I don't know what that necessarily feels like. And I'm now beginning to understand, okay, I don't know what it feels like, because that part of me is so closed off and feels unworthy. So I want to get to know that part first. Why do you feel unworthy? And let me hold you and accept you and understand you and see where this came from childhood, from friends, from family, from school, from society, from TV shows, or from just observing how other people lived. And I didn't live that way. So because they had things and I didn't, was I not worthy of them? Like, I don't know. I'm still unpacking that. And that's where I think what you so beautifully said, it's the uncovering. I'm able to know myself better, and I'm able to hold compassion for people who have money and who doesn't have money. In all of these different ways, I'm expanding now my perspective and all of the angles that I want to learn through the energy and the relationship to money. But really, it's just a deeper understanding of myself and why I believe these things and how they got programmed into my subconscious, and allowing that to rewire.
Yeah, that's put really, really well. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, this is something that I think we're both really passionate about, because we've lived it for so long.
Yeah.
And it's been a long journey, and a frustrating journey in a lot of ways, because there's been so much to learn, and it hasn't been nearly as smooth as I had hoped it would be. But things have changed so much. I think even just like lately, I feel like my life is like just constantly changing and evolving. And even like as somebody who struggled for a long time with money and with the belief that the only way to get money was to either work really, really hard or get lucky. And I've always, like, in a lot of ways, just kind of like this is common, but like see people who have money and things are going well, and just like, oh, they're lucky, or their family's rich, or what, they just like they didn't earn that. Changed the way I see the world in so many ways. And now, like, you see it, like I get random checks in the mail, and it's like, and I'll be like, like residual checks for shows I forgot I was on, or like different things, like just that, like completely unexpected, out of the blue, almost daily, like emails about opportunities to make money and all these different revenue sources. And it's like, oh, it's like, because I'm finally learning to let go of the resistance that I put on this, and the subconscious belief that it's a bad thing, that these people all like were just lucky, or didn't deserve it, or did bad things to get their money. And it's like, as I let go of all that stuff, my life changes. And it's really, really cool to experience. And like, that's what I want to share with people. And that's why I want to keep having these conversations.
Absolutely. And before you have your next thought, this is very much to how you've changed your view and how I've changed mine. That when you have one job, that's the only way to receive money. That's the corporate kind of, that's how you do it. I've been in many corporate jobs. I understand it. But over the past, gosh, I don't know, decade, if not longer, a side hustle has been a thing where you do have your corporate job and then you're either like driving for Uber, you're like, you have, an online platform, you could be an influencer, you could have sell things on Etsy or something like that. It's like your side hustle. It's like, yes, absolutely. And I think there's going to be like maybe another layer to that very soon where it's like all of these avenues are available to you once you shift that perspective. When you open yourself up to the possibility of, oh, wait a minute, so I can receive money in just, in multiple ways, not just through the job. And like, yes, of course, there's lots of different ways. There's lots of ways to get passive incomes.
Yeah. It's another example where it's like, because it's not all about money. And I know like
No, yeah.
we do use the example a lot just because I think it's something that's really simple that everybody can relate to and understand. But kind of one thing that I, for the last 10 years, or probably more, I've been really into like the evolution of consciousness and just developing spiritually. And that's another thing where I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of believing they should be more spiritual because they read this book or did this thing or they've been meditating for so long. It's like I think I've always put so much almost resistance on my growth because I thought it was really, really important. And I decided I because it's like tied to all this stuff. It's like, oh, okay, well, like I'm not manifesting the life that I want because I'm not spiritual enough. So I need to become more spiritual. And it's like once you start putting those needs on things, it starts to like really like kind of like create static in your environment. And I think like lately over the past year and especially over the past like few months, I've really tried to lean into understanding like my soul is going to evolve either way. It's like this huge illusion that I need to be the one that does it. And there is that like that doesn't exist. I'm not even real. I'm just an idea in my own mind. Like this idea of Dan and this personality that I have. And I've built so much of my personality lately around how I'm working to evolve spiritually and evolve in consciousness. But the truth is that no matter what I do, whether I'm aware of it or not, my soul is going to evolve through the experience. It's going to experience things, it's going to learn, it's going to have a new perspective of things, and it's going to grow. No matter what I do, whether I care about it or not, no matter, and this is true for all of us, every single 8 billion souls that have incarnated on Earth right now are evolving, whether they know it or not, no matter what they're going through. And I do believe that because I'm consciously participating, it's going to help in some way. But more so, I've come to realize that it's just something I enjoy. I like learning about this stuff. I like growing spiritually. I like growing in awareness and trying to evolve my consciousness. And I really enjoy experiencing that growth and realizing like, oh, my awareness has shifted. My perspective is different. I'm growing and I'm evolving through this world. What a fun thing to do. And looking at it in that sense of it's not something I have to do because it's happening anyway, but I get to enjoy it by taking conscious participation in it.
I love it. That's so good.
Yeah. And I feel like as I've done that, as I've dropped the importance and just been like, I'm going to enjoy this ride, I feel like it's happening faster and I'm able to actually enjoy it. And it's been really, really cool. And I think that that's a huge part of knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Is kind of like, at least for me, my journey has been the more I've done this, the more I've let go and just leaned into the process and let things happen, the more clarity I've had, the greater my awareness, the more I've enjoyed. And then the other things start to click and make more sense. And then I'm getting checks in the mail. And it's like this, it all does make sense. And it's all very closely tied together. And I think it's just a really, really cool thing.
Absolutely. I ditto everything that you said. I love this learning, this knowing and
Hmm.
figuring out, who I truly am. And as you so beautifully described, the enthusiasm that you have, the joy that you have is bringing more of that into your life to learn through. And this is really, truly where kind of the manifestations come in, kind of like the mop that I did,
Hmm.
like you're saying, the checks and things. There's simply also another word from that, are synchronicities.
Yeah.
So like manifesting and synchronicity, I don't want to get into the difference of that, but how I know for me personally that I'm either on the right track, whether or not something's manifesting in my life, synchronicities will happen very often. Like someone will say something and it was like a thought that I had the day before, or I'll be thinking, oh, I really need to talk to my girlfriend today. And then she texts me like an hour later, or I'll see numerous numbers repeating, or like someone will say like there'll be a show on and it will say something like a phrase, and then I'll see the phrase like a couple days later. It's all these things connected.
Hmm.
It's again the mirror. It's reflecting back to you. It's like, yep, what you've got going on internally is now you're seeing it. So keep going. Don't get discouraged. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving yourself, trying to get to know yourself better, accept those parts. And as we wrap up here, I just want to kind of wrap this in a pretty bow, as we've gone on a lot of different directions here, but I think all encompassing, as we had started talking about like the secret and dark matter and these things, just the sheer mind blowing excitement knowing that we are the creators of our universe,
Hmm.
of our world. And we have always been. We just have been doing it unconsciously.
Yeah.
So we now have to switch on the new neural pathways, the new brainwaves, the new energies, this new way of being to consciously create. And the only way we can do that is, like you said, to get to know ourselves. And why have we been creating unconsciously from subconscious patterns of fear, lack, not being good enough, inadequacy, all of the things that kind of perpetuate this world that we're
Hmm.
living in that may not reflect what we truly want. It's not that the world is wrong. It's not that we're wrong. We just haven't known what we know now. And a lot of these things that we're talking about, yes, they're spiritual, they're esoteric, but they're literally scientifically proven now. We've named the people and the scientists and the doctors that we follow and watch and have learned from for years and years and years. So it's the gaps being bridged between spirituality and science. And this is what's happening. And this is exactly what dark matter is showing.
Hmm.
When you allow your subconscious to dictate your outer world, that's when you're going to see the shitstorm that's kind of going on right now.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want anybody to feel badly about this. I've done it. I've created this. I didn't know until. You don't know what you don't know until it's being presented to you. And it was so graciously presented to us that we're now like, all right, I'm ready to let go of the person that I was. I'm ready to let go of the beliefs that I thought I wasn't worthy enough, that I thought I wasn't worthy of $1 million, that I thought I wasn't worthy of building this business or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
the relationship, love, whatever it may be, to now, okay, how can I be more conscious in my day? How can I wake up almost? We hear that term a lot, and we've been using that kind of more frequently. Like, am I right now, am I awake in this conversation? Am I present?
Yeah.
Am I hearing what you're saying? Am I listening to what I'm saying? Am I consciously speaking what I want to create? Or am I using some sort of autopilot that, oh, this is kind of how Elise speaks, and this is just, I just want to
Yeah.
get through this. No, I'm pretty confident right now, especially in this moment, I'm consciously creating this coexistence of a podcast that we're going to put out for people, because I truly believe it's going to be helpful. And I genuinely am coming from a place of compassion and wanting people to understand, for me to learn too, in ways to listen back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how many times have you had an experience or a conversation or something happen, and then when you leave, you're like, I can't believe that's like how that went. Like, I don't.
Yeah, like, was that even me?
Yeah, I'll very often, like, I'll have a conversation and then I'll leave and be like, I don't feel good about the way I was in that conversation. And it's because I wasn't consciously aware of it. I was asleep and letting my subconscious run old programs. And then you're like reacting to what they're doing and you're defending yourself and whatever it is, but you're not awake. You're not present in the moment. And that's what like you said, we've been checking in so much to, like, am I awake right now? Am I consciously making these choices? Or am I just letting old programs dictate it? Because you mentioned before, like, synchronicities and how as you go through life, there's all these little things that kind of reflect back to you, like, okay, you're on the right path. But at the same time, the opposite's true too. If you're going through your life and you're like, all these things aren't resonate, they're like dissonant energies and they're not resonant with what life that you truly want, it's because it's a reflection of your subconscious patterns and your subconscious conditioning and your subconscious beliefs.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, absolutely. Yes. If things aren't going right, if I know, we never talk really about that. If you lose things or your job isn't going right, your relationships aren't good. Yes, it's again, not to discourage anybody. It's just the universe knocking, saying, hey, just look in the mirror. If you had the power to create these problems, you have the power to change it.
Yes.
I want to empower people. Like, I don't want to put more fear, or I don't want anybody to judge themselves in any way. Like, we're all human. I've certainly created a lot of disharmonious situations, energy in my life. And I thought that I was the victim of that. But I understand now, no, I was so beautifully shown that within me, something was out of alignment, and it was out of alignment with myself, and I needed to correct what was inside. There was nothing outside that could correct that for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all an inside job. So as we wrap up here, I also want to announce, I guess, that we are going to be taking our first break since starting the show.
Season break. We're going on summer vacation.
Yeah. So after 3 years, season 1 is coming to a close. We're going to take a short break.
The longest podcast season ever.
But yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to a chance to kind of reset, and we're already working on season 2. We've already got a bunch of great shows planned, and we're really excited. So this will be just, a few months so we can enjoy our summer and kind of recalibrate and get excited and
align more with the energy and the different people that we're going to have on. We already have taped guest episodes for the coming fall. So make sure you subscribe to the show.
Yeah. So if you guys subscribe to the show, then you will be alerted as soon as we're back and begin season 2, which will be in probably a few months. And in the meantime, we will keep posting on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and sharing content from past episodes. And there's a lot of episodes. So if you're kind of new to the show, if you haven't listened to every episode, there's a lot that you can go back through and find. A lot of great interviews with really interesting guests, and a lot of episodes with just us talking about our lives.